What a time to be a Nuggets fan. Welcome to the Nuggets Nation Podcast, Episode 2. It's been quite a while since the Nuggets have been in the playoffs. It's going to be a lot of our players' first times in the playoffs, as well as our head coach, Coach Malone. This is going to be his first time coaching in the playoffs in his career. As a head coach, that is. Wednesday was the last day of the NBA regular season. So the Nuggets played on Tuesday and Wednesday, the final 2 days of the regular season. Tuesday, we did lose, but it actually went perfectly for us. I'm sure everyone saw what happened with Magic Johnson quitting at the end of the Lakers game. I have an opinion on that. I feel sad for Magic Johnson, but this is the Nuggets Nation podcast. We're not going to talk about that. What everyone didn't notice about that is how it helped the Nuggets. So at the end of that game, the Trailblazers came back to win. Mo Harkless made 8 clutch points, including the game-winning three. That same night, OKC played the Rockets. We needed the Thunder to win, but the Thunder were down 15 points in the third quarter. Later on in the fourth quarter, the Thunder actually went on a 15-0 run to make the game close and interesting again. But the Rockets actually went on a 9-4 run right back at them. So the Rockets were up 4 points with only 22 seconds left on the clock. Russell Westbrook goes down, takes a wild three-point shot that you guys would probably all judge him for missing, but instead he made it. Russell Westbrook gets a lot of unwarranted love, but that's not my issue here to discuss right now. But he made that shot. James Harden goes down the court, gets free throws. He misses his last free throw, giving the Thunder a chance to win the game. They give Paul George the ball in the corner, and he makes the game-winning three. Those games open the doors up for some interesting seeding, but we'll discuss that later. The next day, Wednesday, was what I was more concerned with, as it would make a big difference on what team the Nuggets would face in the first round. If the Spurs had lost their last game, we'd play the Clippers. But even better, if the Spurs won their game like they did, but the Thunder lost their last game. Yes, they played another game after that game on Tuesday. They played against the Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday. The Thunder were actually able to win that game as well, but if they had lost that game, it would have caused a three-way tie at the bottom of the Western Conference. So the Spurs, Clippers, and Thunder would all be tied at the bottom, with the Spurs taking the 6th spot by virtue of tiebreaker. The Clippers would have the 7th spot, and the Thunder would have the final and 8th spot. This would have been beyond perfect for us. It would have gave us a matchup against the Clippers, and it would have also helped get the Warriors out of the playoffs, as they would have faced the Thunder in the first round. And like I have said in my previous podcast, it would help for each round the Warriors to struggle and possibly even go to Game 7s. But while I was focused on the bottom seeding of the playoffs to see who we match up with, I actually didn't realize something that had happened at the top, which is what I was alluding to earlier. Because the Blazers were able to beat the Lakers and the Rockets also lost to the Thunder on Tuesday, the Rockets actually fell to the 4th spot. Interestingly enough, we played the Trailblazers a few days before then, and interestingly enough, we played a lot of our second string, and in the fourth quarter in clutch time, we didn't play any starters or any of our best players. Coach Malone might have noticed this and done it on purpose. By having the Rockets take the 4th spot, we're actually able to avoid both the Warriors and the Rockets in the second round of the playoffs if we advance. I don't know if Coach Malone noticed this previously and he did it on purpose or not, but at least that part of the seeding worked out in our advantage. The Spurs were the team I feared the most and I didn't want to face in the first round. But if we truly believe the Nuggets will make it far in the playoffs this season, then this is extremely beneficial to us, seeing as we don't have to face the most difficult teams in the second round and they face each other, knocking one of them out for us. Also, as much as I wanted to avoid the Spurs, and as smart as Pop is, we will be fine. It's not too big of a deal to be facing the Spurs. They're not that scary of a team, honestly. At first, I was fearful of facing the Spurs, but Spurs fans themselves and a lot of the ESPN takes, etc., have shown that you guys are just overlooking the Nuggets completely, and a lot of y'all have very big mouths, so now I'm excited to play the Spurs. I respect the Spurs because of Pop, not because of the players. The players don't scare me. The players don't suck, but they're not an issue, really. They're just like any other team. But Pop, to me, is like the Bill Belichick of the NBA. To me, at least, he's the best coach in the NBA right now. Now, I told you I'm not too fearful. I'm not shaking in my boots to play the Spurs. We have a chance to beat them. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. But one thing I didn't realize, and I'm not going to take credit for it, is Nick Wright's idea. He brought this up, and I thought it was extremely smart and bad for the Nuggets. I don't recall if he has the Nuggets or the Spurs winning the series, but what he said is if the Nuggets do win the series, the problem is going to be that Greg Popovich is going to show the league kind of a blueprint to beat the Nuggets. He's going to show some weak points in the Nuggets. He's smart. He's going to... And then other teams with better players are going to be able to take advantage of Pop's ideas with their players. So that's going to be one of our biggest tasks in the playoffs. But let's focus on the Spurs for right now. Home court is going to be huge in this series, as we're both 2-2 in the regular season against each other, and we both won our home games against each other, interestingly enough. So we played the Spurs December 26th and 28th. 26th, the Spurs were at home. It was a very close game, but then the Spurs were able to pull away late in the fourth quarter and take their win at home. On the 28th, they came to Denver, so we were at home. We were up 14 at the half. They cut into the lead a little bit in the third quarter, but we closed the fourth quarter off strong. In our third matchup, the Spurs were home this time, and they were up comfortably. They were playing pretty well and beating us by a lot, I'm not going to lie. We were eventually able to bring the game within 3 points, but the problem was, after we did that, they then went on a run, and they took their lead all the way back up to 18 points in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes. But in Nuggets fashion, we made a spectacular comeback. We were making plenty of threes. We were down 18 with 7 minutes, so we had to shoot threes, and we were making them. We came all the way back to about 1 point game. We actually had the ball with less than 24 seconds, so we had the final possession, and we could have won the game, but Jokic was stripped. We lost the ball. But then they go down. We foul Rudy Gay. He gets 2 chances at the free throw line, and he actually misses both. So we had a whole second chance to win the game again. Gary Harris gets I wouldn't call it open. It was a difficult shot to win the game. He wasn't able to make it. I don't fault him for that. He's pretty clutch. He'll make a game-winning 3 all too well. Our fourth and final game was at home. We won it easily. The thing is, that was the game Greg Popovich got tossed within, I believe, 63 seconds. He has the NBA record for the quickest ejection in a game. Of course, that has something to do with that game and how we won so easily. He does make a big difference, but I believe we would have won it anyways, as you can see by each team winning their home games. But we did win it comfortably, and that's the thing. We've shown our dominance and won games against them comfortably and shown that we're better than them. They have shown dominance against us as well and have had us down by a lot, like 18 at some point in the game. But each of the games that we're down against them, we always come back. One thing that everyone has been pointing to, and one reason everyone thinks the Nuggets are going to lose, is because of what they call our inexperience in the playoffs. I believe our inexperience is overstated. At the end of the year, the Nuggets have showed at least a glimpse of their playoff mode. We closed out the season pretty well. We had plenty of comebacks. Any game we were down, we always came back and we had a chance to get the game winner or something like that. Included in our comebacks, and one of the main reasons we always come back, is throughout the entire regular season, the Nuggets hold the best fourth quarter defense. So out of all 32 teams, we play the best defense when it matters most in the fourth quarter, and that sounds like a playoff asset to me. The Nuggets have held their opponents to an average of 24.8 points per game in the fourth quarter, not per game, I apologize. And that number drops down to only 23 points for the opposing team when we're at home. Goes up to a little about 26 when we're away. So as all the numbers say, we're clearly not as good away as we are at home. But 26 is not a bad points for the fourth quarter. It's actually pretty good. So we still play solid defense whether we're home or away in the fourth quarter. Speaking of inexperience and closing off the season in playoff mode, we have to talk about Paul Millsap, our key acquisition of last season, actually. The thing is, last season he was injured for more than half of the season, so he was never able to build the chemistry with the rest of his teammates. But this is the year everything's working out and he can finally do what he was brought here for, to make a difference for us in the playoffs. Paul Millsap is experienced in the playoffs, unlike the rest of our team. Also, he finished off the year extremely strong, even from three-point range, and he's a power forward. I know the league is different, and big men shoot threes as well nowadays. But the thing is, when we brought Paul in, we brought Paul for the veteran leadership, the playoff experience. But also, Jokic is our center and our big man, but he does not play big man. He's actually our point guard. He plays center, but he's pass first. And he doesn't play big in the post. So that's what Paul Millsap is here for. But like I said, Paul Millsap has been closing the year off amazing from 3-point range. Since March 29th, Paul Millsap has been shooting 41% from 3-point range. So the entire team in general and one of our most key pieces have all been heating up towards the end of the season. So we're right where we need to be. Now, how do we match up against the Spurs specifically? I think the key battle is going to be in that big man area, our power forwards and our centers. So they have LaMarcus Aldridge, who has been and is going to most likely be able to take advantage of Jokic on defense for us. So LaMarcus Aldridge is going to get a decent amount of points. The thing is, though, I feel like Jokic is still going to be able to do what he always does, regardless of what happens. The thing is, sometimes Jokic doesn't show up, but I think that was more of a fault from last season than this season. This season, Jokic has really taken the reign as our best player on the team. But the thing with the Nuggets is we don't rely on one player and one best player. We need everybody to show up for the playoffs. And that's a good thing about us is we're a pretty deep team. Actually, I believe we have the advantage against the Spurs when it comes to our bench. But just in general, I'm talking about even just the 5 starters. We're going to get a lot of help from everybody. So Jokic is going to struggle a little bit playing big man defense, but we also have Mason Plumlee on the bench and Paul Millsap to help him specifically with that. Speaking of best players, it can be argued that DeMar DeRozan is the Spurs' best player. He's very good, and he is going to be an issue, but I'm actually less concerned with him as I was with LaMarcus Aldridge. So I said we're going to have an issue matching up with LaMarcus Aldridge and playing defense on him, but we actually will have the opposite issue. I feel like we'll be perfectly adept to matching up with DeRozan. We have very good guard defense. We have, if we want to start Torrey Craig, which we do whenever we have a threat against the other team, we let him start and he just straps their best player. And even without changing our normal starting 5 and putting Torrey Craig in, if we just match up with our regular starting 5, DeMar DeRozan and Gary Harris both play shooting guard. And I believe highly in Gary Harris's defensive ability to be able to stop DeRozan. I wouldn't say maybe stop, but slow him down for sure. Another player who could be a problem would be Derek White. But since everyone likes to harp on playoff inexperience so much, Derek White is also inexperienced in the playoffs, so we don't care about him. We're going to ignore him. He doesn't mean anything. And if you want to discuss him, Jamal Murray, I believe, is a better player. They do, though, on the other hand, have Patty Mills, who, since everyone wants to talk about experience, is very experienced, and he does always show up when it matters most. Like I said earlier, though, the biggest factor in this matchup is going to be home court. Now, the Nuggets, we have the number one home court advantage, first of all, because we play in altitude. So, our home court specifically, I would believe to be the most advantageous of the home courts. And it actually shows in what I was going to say is the Nuggets are number one at home this year. So, I guess that proves our home court advantage. We're 34-7 this year at home. The Spurs are not far off. The Spurs are 32-9 in their house as well. So they also are good at home. But by virtue of being the better seed, we have a home court advantage in more games at home. So I feel we have many more advantages than them, including our roster. The only disadvantage I would say we have is they would probably have the better coach. I think that's pretty obvious. But the thing is, even if it's a very tight matchup and goes to possibly 7 games, like I said, we have the home court advantage. We have 4 home games versus their 3. So that would point to us being able to close the series and finish it off. Our only issue would be we don't want to drop any of our early home games. We don't want to lose the first or second game and give the Spurs the psychological advantage. Aside from that, I'm fairly confident that the Nuggets are going to win this first round playoff series. I do actually have respect for the Spurs, so I'm not, overconfident. I don't see us sweeping them or anything like that. So I'm praying the Nuggets take the win by game 6. Maybe we can steal one at home or at their house. If it does go to a game 7, I strongly believe we will win. If I had to make a prediction, I would say Nuggets in 6. Go Nuggets. Let's force them to put some respect on our name. Let's shut those big mouth haters up. And let's laugh when everybody switches up and starts respecting the Nuggets and talking about how good we are and all the love that we're going to receive in the near future.